This week we are reading for information. We're going to be listening to a podcast about the heart. This week we are listening to a podcast about the heart. We're going to be practicing our skill of reading for information. We'll need to listen well and link the new information to what we already know, as well as thinking about anything new that we've learned. To do this task, you will need a printout of the reading for information sheet or a blank piece of paper with the headings written on. You'll also need a pencil and a rubber. You can find a link to the podcast in the assignment. Before we listen to the podcast, we're going to fill in some of the boxes on the sheet. This sheet is very similar to the one that we used when we were doing reading for information in the classroom. We're going to fill in the title, what the text is about, the type of text, what we already know and what we would like to find out more about. On the next slide, I'll explain what we're going to put in each box. The title of the text is The Heart, It's the Most Amazing Muscle. The text is all about the heart and how it works. In the box labelled number 1, what do I already know, you're going to write anything that you already know about the heart. In the box labelled number 2, what would I like to know more about, you're going to write something that you would like to know more about the heart. For example, you might want to know, how does the heart keep beating all day and all night? Or maybe you want to know, what makes the heart beat faster or slower? Now that we've thought about what we already know and what we like to find out, we're going to listen to the podcast. Listen all the way through and have a think about what you already knew and whether it was correct. Also think about whether you've learned anything new from listening to the podcast. Now it's time to fill in the final box. Here, in the box labelled number 3, what have I learned, we're going to write what we've learned from listening to the podcast. For example, I learned that the reason that the heart can beat all day and all night is because it's made from a very special type of muscle called cardiac muscle. It's different from the type of muscle that we have in our legs or our arms, and that means that it can work much harder for much longer. I also learned that the heart beats without us even thinking about it, which is why it can beat when we're busy and also when we're asleep. Finally, here are some bonus questions to check whether you've listened well to the podcast. The first one is, what is your heart the same size as? Second, what is the heart made from? The third question is, how many parts does the heart have? The fourth question is, what is the heart's job? The fifth question is, what are the 2 main places that the heart pumps blood to? The 6th question is, when would your heart beat fast? The 7th question is, when would your heart beat slow? And the final question is, when is the best time to measure your resting heart rate?